Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Journey to Better Cybersecurity in 2022 and Beyond. Today is 18th of August 2022. My name is Ipar and I'm joined by my colleague Richa for moderating today's section. So some key information before we get started. The webinar will run for about 1 hour, where the last 15 minutes will be for Q&A. Please note this webinar will be recorded and we will direct you to the recording and the materials after the webinar. You can send in your questions anytime during the presentation from your Zoom control panel. The panelists will collectively address them during the Q&A session. Okay, now the cybersecurity is a priority in the international maritime sector today. In this webinar, we will take a close look at the new requirements that we all now must meet and focus on guidance for implementing cybersecurity in the maritime sector. Now, I would like to welcome our panelists for today who will provide some thoughts and action for us. So our first panelist of the day is the cybersecurity technical leader for Bureau Veritas Marine Offshore, Mr. Panayotis. And our second panelist is Mr. Sanjeev, Director of Varuna Marine Service BV. We really valued your opinion, so during the webinar, we will certainly find the time for a few poll questions. Well, what's next is meeting our first panelist. Mr. Panos is a cybersecurity technical leader for Bureau Veritas Marine and Offshore and also a member of the IAC Cyber Panel. He has wide experience in cybersecurity, having worked for more than 13 years in the space industry covering flight, ground, and secure operation implementing cybersecurity practice, as he has a solid technical background and is highly analytical. With experience in leading functional expertise teams, he has a high technical knowledge encompassing new technologies, service continuity, and project management. So, Mr. Panos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ipar. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to discuss cybersecurity for the maritime industry with everyone here. Starting our presentation, I would like to let you know that I intend to present you what we remember as a classification society during the past few years. And we will discuss how we will also support the maritime industry towards more cybersecurity. And I will also give an insight on the vulnerabilities, identified threats that are waiting in the corner, let's say, for the maritime industry. And we will also discuss on the new cyber perspectives that awaits the industry in the years to come. Let's take a quick look and go through a quick retrospective of what the past 2 years, under the sign of COVID-19, I would say, taught us as a classification society. You probably know that in response to the growing threat of cybercrime, the International Maritime Organization has issued Resolution 428. And as of January 1st, 2021, all ship owners must comply with this resolution in order to continue sailing worldwide. This means that the cyber risk management must, like any other risks, I would say, be addressed in the SMS, in the safety management system. The implementation of this resolution by ship owners is done in a desperate manner. The major ship owners have used it as a lever to strengthen their organization and cyber protection of their entire fleet. Smaller companies, however, are having difficulty in making this kind of investment to proceed with the implementation of these requirements. The audit of cybersecurity implementation in safety management system by the flags is carried out in a totally different ways, and it totally depends on the flag. It ranges from the most demanding to the most lax. While we see at the same time the number of attacks is breaking records every month, with nightmare scenarios that today are becoming more and more reality. We see that the market is increasing the awareness towards the technical risks that are being developed, and unfortunately we see that the ship owners try to only target for the ISM compliance. We see, as I said before, that cyber attacks have a huge increment in the past 3 years. As you see in the numbers here, it's 900%, and it's quite significant number, I would say. And scenarios that once seemed theoretical are now becoming live, such as leaked and disclosed ballast water management systems, infected VPNs, and a few more cases, I would say. Sorry about that. For the new constructions, we see that it is now inevitable that shipyards will have to invest more to take cybersecurity into account from the early stages of the ship design. In 2021, we have seen some major shipyards trying to begin and prefigure the OT-IT architecture of their future vessels. They are anticipating a trend that will accelerate in the years to come with the publication of the new requirements from Ajax, URE 26 and URE 27, that will be implemented, mandated as of 1st of January 2024. On the equipment side, the situation is quite similar. The near vacuum of regulation up to now has led some to believe that there is a certain impunity in this area, but this will not last. The demand to take cybersecurity into account at the equipment level is growing day by day, and this can be explained by the number of interactions with solutions that are being developed, and interaction with cloud services, and more autonomous and IoT systems. And all these vendors should take into account all the exploitable vulnerabilities. In terms of regulation, we see that the unified requirement E27 is covering this part of the industry, and it will try to ensure cyber resilience of onboard systems and equipment. And as the previous requirement is having a mandate date as of 1st of January 2024. Sorry about this again. Now, let's talk a bit about the threats that have been identified and the new vulnerabilities. Nowadays, we see that the digitization affects all sectors. Our maritime world has entered, like many others, into the world of hyperconnectivity. Hyperconnectivity has even become an unavoidable competitive advantage. It saves time, it saves resources, and it increases efficiency. We have updated the cargo manifests shared in real time among vessels and among shore and ship to shore, I would say. We have a system positioning of cargo, connected objects almost everywhere on board. And I can give you plenty more examples, and we can go on talking about just these examples. We see that everyone wants hyperconnectivity. However, everybody tends to neglect cybersecurity. Everyone relies on software, but doesn't care about the fast obsolescence of the softwares. We as a classification society, we have observed a strong tendency among our customers to consider that cybersecurity was only an IT matter. Nothing could be further from the truth, however. OT and IT interconnections are responsible for the fact that the boundaries between OT and IT systems are getting harder and harder to define. This poses a solid ground for the increment of the threat severity. A ship at sea is not isolated anymore, and it is as vulnerable as if she were at the home port. If the company headquarters are hit and data is somehow corrupted, their whole fleet might be hit as well. A vulnerability discovered on an OT or on an IT system can be exploited simultaneously on hundreds of ships on which the system is connected and poorly, unfortunately, protected. This means that the fleet blackout is no longer an unlikely scenario. Beyond the loss of business for the ship owner company that has been attacked, there is a major risk of long-time loss of credibility, especially in business-related, if business-related files have been corrupted or leaked, and with all the legal problems that could derive from this, of course. The recovery time from an attack, or let's say in simpler words, the time to get back to a healthy situation after a company is hit can sometimes be very important, especially if the company was not solidly prepared. And as you know, pirates are now able to target a specific ship in the port and specific containers with the most valuable goods in case we have data being lost. We see that all these organizations behind piracy are investing more and more in tools that will grant them the chance to hack sensitive information on the ship's activity. Now, challenge on behalf of the classification societies and on the ship owner is to actually maintain a level of cybersecurity on the in-service vessels, to prepare cybersecure vessels by design, and try to push for autonomous systems. These systems should be comprised by systems that have been priorly cybersecure by design. We are here also for advice. Companies and their fleet address cybersecurity as one of their main priorities. Cyber expertise must be sought, trained, and retained. Adding cybersecurity on existing vessels increase the value also on resale cases. And perhaps the most important point is cybersecurity must now be included in the specification of the ship order from the shipyards. Now, in order to discuss a bit on the future, on how we can proceed from this point onwards, we would like to actually show how the maritime industry is being evolved and how we also as a classification society can assist ship owners and manufacturers to establish a cyber resilience level in their vessels, in their ports, in their companies, in their premises, and also in their data. we are able to provide assistance everywhere required within the maritime industry. What I will do is I will try to present a timeline in terms of the evolution of the regulations, and also sorry, I jumped my slide again. I don't know why. Good. So I will try to present the digital evolution and also the evolution of the requirements within the maritime industry. As we saw until 2018, all shipping companies were trying to have a more, I would say, automated performance, which was monitored in their fleet. And this, we can say, that was the cornerstone for the evolution of the systems within the maritime industry. So starting from a management performance system, we will try to evolve and achieve a level of autonomous systems and autonomous vessels from 2024 onwards. This is being maintained and can be assisted by the classification society with the new requirements. You can have here, you can see here all the details. This is just a rough estimation in terms of time on how the evolution within the maritime industry progressed. As we said before, as we discussed before, hyperconnectivity on the system is something that actually opened and widened the surface, the attack surface within the maritime industry. We have propulsion system, navigation systems, which are now interconnected with any other system on the vessel, and they are providing accuracy and data towards the shore. We are talking now about smart shipping, digital twins that are being done in order to conduct some preliminary analysis, estimations, and also to somehow simulate how the vessels are going to be operating. We are actually talking now about the design of unmanned vessels, which can be either fully remotely controlled or partially, depending on the systems that are implemented within the vessel. And the target, of course, is going to be autonomous vessels that will not require physical presence, let's say. This will reduce also the cost of personnel in the ship owners. But in order to achieve the level of autonomous vessels, we need to establish cybersecurity, not as a trend, but as something which is mandatory in order to be able to sustain the autonomous capabilities of the system. So, in terms of regulations, BV has published a rule note, which is rule note 659. Everyone can find it and go through it. It's a set of requirements and rules, deriving also and being in line with the Ajax requirements and recommendations, and also with the IMO resolutions. We saw that as of April 2022, new requirements, new unified requirements have been published from Ajax that actually cover the new constructions and the equipment, and they will ensure cyber resilience to vessels designed and starting being built as of 1st of January 2024. In addition to that, we have a recommendation from Ajax, which is recommendation 171, and actually it ensures that cybersecurity and risk assessment is part of the SMS, the safety management system, and is in line with the IMO resolution 428. Now, from this time until the 1st of January, that we will have this implementation phase. It is something that should not be neglected. It should not be taken as if we have 1.5 years ahead from the day of the mandatory implementation of the new requirements. It is a phase that will allow all the ship owners, all the vendors, or the equipment manufacturers to actually establish cyber resilience on their systems, on their vessels, so that they are prepared from 2024 onwards. So we have identified the following opportunities that we will go through now for ship owners and for the system manufacturers. For the ship owners, we see that we will try to assist in having the cyber security or cyber effort as an enabler and not as a constraint, which was the way of thinking until now. We want the ship owners to actually protect the vessels and their company. We have discussed, and I have previously said, that hyperconnectivity will not only impact, with hyperconnectivity, we will not only have an impact on a vessel or a single entity. We were talking about fleet blackouts and also premises hits. This will also, with the new requirements, we see that the ship owners will retain the capability, will have the capability of retaining experienced teams to evolve also cybersecurity within their business. As of today, we saw that cyber security by design was not something taken for granted. However, now this will give a heads up and also will allow ship owners to distinguish themselves within the maritime industry and also from the competitors. We have discussed that the new requirements are only covering new constructions and systems. For ships in service, the class notations that are being granted from the classification societies are going to be in line with the IMO resolution that we have discussed earlier. This will allow the classification societies and also the ship owners to have a proper asset evaluation and risk that are being posed within these assets, will allow them to have the tools in order to protect their assets. It will also, we are also willing to assist in building procedures that ensure that the crew is aware, which is one of the most important aspects of cybersecurity, is awareness. So we are trying to assist in building this kind of documentation, incident response and recovering procedures also, and as I said before, crew training, in order to ensure that awareness of the cyber threats is something which is continuously ongoing and not something as a one-off. For the new constructions, what is going to be mandated from the new unified requirements is actually to establish a network segmentation within the vessel. This will ensure that the vessel will continue, even after a hit, a possible hit, will continue to be operational. Imagine having everything connected within one network. You can understand the risk behind this. So a logical and physical access management of all these systems within each network is going to be mandatory. And since we're talking also on remote access on the onboard systems, we need to have procedures for cyber incident detection, for restoration and resilience. So we as a classification society will support shipyards during this pilot phase to achieve this awareness or consult the ship owners and assist them also on the design review on the new buildings. For equipment, we see that now the new requirement E27 actually mandates the software that is being operating the equipment needs to be hardened. We need to have logical and physical connectivity specifics, and we will conclude with testing of the equipment to ensure cyber resilience is there. So what we do is also support manufacturers during this pilot phase through type approval certifications in order to ensure that the solutions, and as I said before, we see constantly the solutions evolving, having cloud services implemented, and we are talking about IoT systems. We will try to assist the manufacturers to ensure that cybersecurity is present on their systems and on their solution. Having systems which are being implemented, which are being installed in vessels, will ensure and will grant classification, class notations easier towards the ship owners. So that's been said, feel free to contact us for any additional comments, any additional guidelines, any additional discussions. I am here to support and assist on whatever needs to be clarified. And I could also go through the Q&A and discuss some of the questions that we have. Is that okay? Good. Next step for Ajax after having released E26 and E27. Well, I believe that the next step is actually for the ship owners to understand that the implementation of E26 and E27 will ensure that their fleet, their data is safe. So we will try to actually assist on how to implement these new requirements. What happens when owner is not being able to maintain and updated test plans provided by the supplier? Well, classification societies are here not only to verify and to grant class notations, but also to assist ship owners and establish a channel of communication between suppliers. If we conclude that the plans, or if we see that the plans from a supplier are becoming obsolete, and it is something that we have discussed before, of course, then the ship owners should start thinking about evolution, about evolving their systems in order to avoid their obsolescence of the current system being an open door for potential threats. Yes, I would say we have another question. If the equipment needs to be certified for E27, as per E27 by 2024, yes, it is something that will give a heads up to the manufacturers, because certifying equipment is not a process that is being done within a day. It is a process that requires time, it requires effort and commitment from both parties, from classification societies and from system manufacturers. So if suppliers want to be prepared for 2024, of course, they have to start with the preparation phase. And this is why we said before that from now until 2024, it is going to be an implementation phase that will allow entities to prepare themselves. So, of course, the earlier, the better, I would say. Retrospectively applicable, well, if something is being certified now, there is, I do not understand the question of retrospectiveness. if, if we are talking, okay, sorry, it says or only for new devices. No, of course, for systems that are being used now, that are going to be used tomorrow, it is something that is a process ongoing and will grant a type approval in these systems so that they are fully aligned with the new requirement. So there is no respectiveness, retrospectiveness, let's say, in this equipment. Equipment gets to be certified now. It is cyber resilient from the day of the certification, from the day of granting the certificate of approval until later on. What guidance is there on training requirement for seafarers in light of E26? Well, E26 considers that crew awareness is already in place. Training should be mandatory for all crew members and should be done in a repetition, meaning that training should be maintained not only once during the initial phase, I would say, but also throughout occasional trainings or frequent trainings, quarterly, bi-yearly, yearly, depends on the ship owner and the awareness and the technical background, I would say, of each ship owner. However, if the ship owners do not possess these capabilities, we as Classification Society are here to support and assist on crew members. It is something we are doing. We are performing trainings, at least to everybody, in terms of surveyors, in terms of people who are actually performing checks, audits for systems and vessels. And of course, we are here to assist ship owners to build training materials, procedures in order to maintain crew awareness. As I said before, the awareness of people is the key factor of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not only for experts. Cybersecurity it applies to everyone who has awareness, at least, of the threats that are out there, and at least specifics or basics that could somehow ensure that there is a level of cybersecurity. Of course, if we want to talk about more advanced trainings and more advanced systems and solutions, things change. It's quite different, and there you need a technical background. These are the questions I have so far. If there are no others, I could give back the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Panos, for sharing such an insightful information. Great presentation. No surprise you have generated a number of questions from audience. So before we move ahead, here is a quick poll question for you all. So the first question, do you have a full inventory of all IT and OT system on board and firmware update process? So the voting is open for 10 to 15 seconds.
All right. We welcome you all. We welcome everyone who has just joined. My name is Richa and I welcome you all on behalf of Varuna Marine Services. Please keep sharing your questions anytime during the presentation. Our panelists will again come back and collectively answer these questions at the end of the presentation, after our second panelist has presented. So Before we move forward, there's the second poll of the day. Coming to your screen. Yeah. So do you think that the low Earth orbit satellites will play a role in your connectivity mix on board your vessel? Yes, no, not sure. The votings are open only for 10 to 15 seconds. All right. So, our second panelist of the day is the director of Varuna Marine Services, who is responsible for the strategic direction, vision, growth, and performance of the company. He is passionate about maritime cybersecurity, maritime sustainability, and maritime digitalization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sanjeev.
Thank you, Richa. And thank you, Mr. Panos, for an insightful presentation. Okay. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Sanjeev, and I'll be taking you through some of the insights that we have in the field of cybersecurity. So, just to begin with, Mr. Panos focused on the incident that has been happening lately, and the numbers are going. The statistics shows from all means that the numbers of cyber incident against maritime installations and actors are increasing on a monthly basis. So it is just a good reflection to see how some of the maritime incidents can affect us, and going forward, the most of the cyber risk management policies would include the processes which begins from identifying the threats, vulnerabilities, risk exposure, and then developing protection and detection measures, establish response plan, and respond to and the recovery phase at the end. And this has been the standard template right from the beginning of NIST to bringing it into the maritime ecosystem. And it is very interesting to see the IX work, and I would like to compliment the whole team of IX, for which Mr. Panos is also a member now, that UR E26 on cyber resilience and ER27 on the equipment guidance is quite a detailed document. I have tried to kind of condense the summary here in my slides, but I recommend everybody to read the original document from IX website. So this unified requirement is valid for the ships which will be contracted for construction on or after 1st of January 2024. And I would also like to emphasize this is a guidance also for existing ships. So given that our ship life cycle runs between 20 to 25 years, there will be many more ships which were built before this date, which would face increasingly challenging challenges as they go with the operations, day-to-day operations, and balance digitization. So it's a document which could also be very well used for existing ships in its shape and form. So the primary thing that we identify in year 26 is first step is to identify in terms of the goal is to achieve better cyber resilience for ships. So they recommend us to identify. The process summary is really to get the inventory, to start with the inventory of hardware and software, and this inventory needs to be updated throughout the life cycle of the ship. So that's a very basic summary of what we need to identify. Then there is guidance on protection, which talks about creating security zones, as Mr. Panos also touched upon, creating segregation in the network, network protection, safeguard, antivirus, anti-malware, access control. Wireless communication is put into a very different segment altogether because wireless communication has its own challenges. So there has been categorical guidance given on wireless communication to how to segregate wireless communication and contain the risk that comes with the wireless segregation. And then it extensively talk about remote access control and communication with untrusted network. Now, remote access control has a lot of potential, but at the same time, a lot of risk as well. So it needs to be really studied. If you are providing remote access in your environment for very many regions, you do need to be aware of how to manage those risks as it comes. And then you have the use of mobile and portable devices. So on the detection page, the advisory has been issued on network operation monitoring and recording of device management activities. So this really touches upon creating a detailed telemetry from devices as to what is going on in your network, and a monitoring system that can detect anomalies in the network. So while the network keeps, segregation has been done, identification has been done, on a day-to-day basis, the network telemetry needs to be understood for or recorded first of all, and then analyzed for any sort of anomalies that you see in the network, for the known malware and the known threats that are there on the date. And this is a very critical thing as to how to achieve it in a vessel network. I mean, it is almost very difficult to implement it in present phase, but as we go through to 2023 and 2024, the amount of telemetry that we are getting from vessel is increasing, especially if you think about the data that we are collecting through multiple sources for data integration, data analytics, performance evaluation, and all that. So this is a very critical phase. How do you get the network level telemetry in order to analyze advanced threats? And this telemetry needs to be, of course, constantly analyzed with the latest threat detection algorithm. Now, diagnostic function and CVS of the network, the ability to verify security function is important to support the management of cyber resilience in the lifetime of the ship. And these functions, of course, would be developed, and as a part of the equipment will be there. It is up to ship owners to utilize those functions to have those advanced analytics coming out of their equipment. And even they have gone as far as mentioning tools like Wireshark and Nmap, which is a typical packet capture tools for the guys who are in the cybersecurity world. So there is a clear guidance there as to what network monitoring solution you should be looking for and how to go about to implementing such solutions. Now, incident response plan, you have the manual operation was always a part of, I think, maritime safety system. We always have local operation for all equipment on board the system. Network isolation, fallback to a minimal risk condition is again a very important advisory, and it has to be implemented by the supplier, of course, and the system integrator. Now, in the end, it is a recovery plan, backup, restore capability, control, shutdown, reset, and rollback. And all these systems has been very well defined for maintaining the maneuverability of the vessel. So the emphasis has been given on how do you achieve this recovery plan without having, impacting the maneuverability and safety of the vessel and the environment. So that's very, very important in terms of how do you implement this solution. And we also have test plan and performance evaluation and testing kits. So while the supplier, the shipyard, and the system integrator would have to go through this exhaustive process of creating this test plan and the logs that would go finally in the hand of the ship owner, and then we'll have to be ready to continue to do those tests. So for vessel equipment, we have been doing some tests on functionality of the equipment, may it be OWS or may it be now ballast water treatment system. We always have some tests to do which has to qualify as the time goes. Now in the cybersecurity world, similarly, we see these tests coming in order to do and verify those equipment performance against which they were logged and the test bed, as we call it, at the time when they were being assembled in the shipyard. And this has to be tested on a daily, on a routine basis by ship owners as and when they take over the control of that ship, which is very interesting. And that, I think, that raises a lot of question as to how do you enable those testing. First, whether it will be done in physical mode by the crew, or will it be done remotely, those test logs, and the environment in which this needs to be done, because obviously vessel is mostly 24/7 in operation. So it will be quite critical to have this sensitivities involved in the test plan testing phase. The last part of ER 26 talks about risk assessment. So there is a provision where a CBS, the computer-based system, could be exempted. And this is very interesting because if you are a supplier and you think your CBS doesn't pose sufficient risk to be under the provision of ER 26, you could actually apply for a exemption and provide a risk assessment for the classification society to consider and approve. Now, given the threat landscape is constantly evolving, this would be very critical, and I think the most weak link of the whole implementation, because you may get exemption today, but if your software and if your computer-based systems are compromised after the exemption have been granted, this really needs to continue a loop back to not have any holes in the process because of this provision. So having looked at ER 26 and 27, I mean, coming back to the present world, how we are defending ourselves, and we are using firewalls, network access control, vulnerability scanners, and agents. Now, there are challenges with these solutions being implemented at the moment, and this will be like they would have unable to detect emerging threats. They will have limited visibility. They will only provide the perimeter protection only. So these are some of the limitations that you could solve with having active network monitoring in place. And we have been a strong proprietor of implementing any kind of active network monitoring solution that is out there, because that gives you the visibility in your network, which simply doesn't exist at the moment. So whatever visibility that you could get in your network, that would meet a lot of requirements that has been stipulated in ER 26. Obviously, this will be a process which cannot be achieved in 1 day or 1 month. You have to constantly work on every single block of that ER 26 to make to harden the cyber resilience of the ship. But I think network monitoring solution and network level telemetry could go a long way in identifying the gaps and holes that will happen in your network, which is not a practice at the moment. So in terms of the virtual assets, you will see the overall segregation of a ship, navigational network, propulsion and steering, power, ballast, IT, crew welfare, and cargo management. So these are independent networks of a vessel. And then it also means that you need telemetry from individual networks to be able to log the activities of simple devices and the endpoint assets that are there on those devices. Now, it's very often believed that if the vessel network is air gapped, then you have no threats on that network. And this is more of a myth in cybersecurity, because you still have risk associated with every network, especially if you do not have the visibility of the network. You can never say that your network is air gapped without having any telemetry coming out of the system. And if you're looking back at ER 27, they categorically talk about more emphasis has been given to OT than IT. I see they have been constantly referring to OT infrastructure, and there could not be more stark contrast between where we stand with OT today and where we want to be in 2024. Today's general approach is that air gap it. We don't want to look at it. We don't want it to communicate with the outside network. We don't want nothing to do with that network as long as it is doing. What we want to achieve in 2024 is a complete overhaul of this OT infrastructure. We want to be able to test this. We have to have tests. We have to have network level telemetry of this equipment. We need to be able to analyze any patches that has to be coming from this system. So there has to be a patch management process in place. And this is in complete contrast with how we handle our OT infrastructure at the moment. So I think it is good for all those IT managers out there to start thinking how they are going to go from this place to where IX wants us to be in 2024. So this is a simple diagram that I often use for the main engine connectivity within the vessel. And even now, given that this guidance is just for operational purpose, there was no, let's say, advanced cybersecurity requirement at the time. Still, you will see that the interconnectivity in between the system is quite high. And as and when the requirements of ER 26 kicks in, you will see this connectivity diagram getting even more dense because of the logging and the patching and automated or manual patch management. All those processes would add up onto the existing network, which is mostly for operation, designed for operation. What we do on existing ships is to collect some network level traffic, which is obviously not designed to easily get the network level traffic from very many equipment. So we are using backplane switches. We are using port mirroring technologies to get packet capture data and then try to analyze them. It is, of course, not as accurate as if it were from directly equipment, but we are still getting a lot of telemetry out of the network traffic, and this data we are using to create network maps. So network map is the very first step of identifying what you have in the network, from software to hardware, and what will be the, let's say, patching protocol of these and how they are connected. Even if we say we are implementing segmentation within our network, with a network map, you could also see that segmentation is actually in practice. And if it is a live network map, which could be accomplished by network monitoring softwares, you will be able to constantly have an overview of your network topology in OSI model or Purdue model, depending upon what we want to find. So in terms of the deployment, what we are doing is, on the Purdue model, we are putting port mirroring or span ports within the level 2 and level 3 of the Purdue model, and then we are sending the telemetry back to the cloud. All this deployment is still with a DMZ. Again, DMZ is also categorically referenced in the ER26 for any external facing interfaces. So any external facing interfaces, you will have to have a DMZ deployed. So this is already adapted to that methodology, in having a firewall and a DMZ involved in terms of the cloud connectivity that we need in order to get the telemetry to the cloud for threat analytics. The OT landscape is fast evolving. There is very few threat analytics which cover, the coverage of OT is always a challenge, because of the the makers have their own reservations on sharing cybersecurity info to the outer world. But with Microsoft, we have been with a partnership with Microsoft, we have been able to get quite a deep telemetry on very many protocols out there. And we are also building custom telemetry, custom logic, custom functions on the new protocols that you may find in IoT segment, or any marine specific equipment that is out there. So it will certainly, I think, as we go along approval process of ER27 for different products, I do think that we would be getting those telemetry that was more or less non-existent for even research purposes. And that is very, very important to get that telemetry in order to start understanding those advanced threats on the marine equipment as they evolve. And we are providing advanced threat intelligence. We have a SOC center. We are also providing reports on updated reports on analytics that we find on our customers that we are monitoring and managing. This is again a flexible deployment model that we are using right now. So we have a sensor that allows us to tap into the vessel network through RJ45 cables, and then the advanced threat algorithm is actually running onto the sensor in order to analyze the network level traffic. The dashboard will give us more or less the insight of all the total assets, the network health, what is the L2 and L3 level traffics, different protocols that are being used, and and the top alerts that we are getting from the different devices as they go about their function in the network. In terms of the asset manager, you will be able to see every single asset with their MAC addresses, with their vendor, with their operating system, with their internal IP within the. And why is it important is, when you go deeper into one particular IP, you will be able to see what the device has been doing, every single incoming and outgoing connection. If the device firmware is being updated in an unauthorized way, again, I would like to link it back to year 27 and 26, because there is a very specific process defined of firmware update, how the firmware update has to run, whether it is manual or automated firmware update, but there is a specific process and logging needed. Now, when you are doing a firmware update in a network monitored, in a network which is monitored constantly, you will be able to have those logs available for yourself and for any root cause analysis that you want to do in terms of comparing what was updated and when was it updated. Because most of these OT are susceptible to malware updates or firmware updates, which could lead to malfunction of these OT and could lead to significant damage to life and environment. Network map is all incoming and outgoing traffic will constantly be monitored, and then there is almost airtight in terms of your telemetry, what is going on within your network, who is coming in, who is going out, and you will be able to do the root cause analysis if you find some anomalies in that. You will also be able to have updated network maps, and a traffic analyzer will give you the source and the destination packages. And again, all these things on a routine basis will be logged and saved for a specific period of time, but could be used for root cause analysis when you see an incident. Alerts will be issued depending upon your organizational and equipment behavior. So if there is any breach of the custom logic that we have set around the circumference, you will see an alert on your control panel, and we will see the alert as well, and the appropriate action could be triggered in terms of the managing the risk that we see. We will also be able to draw out reports, most updated reports and recent reports in line with the different frameworks. But you will be able to see all these different configuration of the report. And again, these reports could really help you not only manage but also prove what has been happening in your network. And as we go along, there will be cybersecurity insurances that will be coming in. There has to be some documentary evidence to be provided in order to justify that there was a cybersecurity incident. And I think this telemetry will be one of the major ways of how you can actually substantiate what has happened in your network, despite taking all these steps. So it is really a continuous process of improvement, and it has to be constantly maintained as any other risk profile that we do, with training, with certifications, with hardening our network, with constantly monitoring our network, and collecting as much telemetry as possible in order to make sure that we have eyes on everywhere. So thank you so much for your listening. Yes, over to you, Richa.
Thank you, sir. Another great presentation. I see we have again generated good amount of questions. So before we move forward, I'd like to request our panelists to take a moment and see if at all in the list of questions again generated, if there are any questions that they would like to tackle. While our panelists are doing their homework, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present the third poll of today's session. And this poll is very much relevant to just what we have been speaking about. Are the onboard crew ready to maintain such test plans for the CBSs? Both our presenters, both our panelists have been speaking about the same. So the voting is open for only 10 and 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah. Not many people are sure that the crew is ready. All right. Now, coming back to our first panelist, Mr. Panas. Sir, please, if at all you want to share or tackle any of the questions which have been recently generated.
Well, before doing that, I would like to take a moment and comment something that Sanjeev said before, which is indeed quite correct. That if we want to talk about the cyber resilience of a vessel, we must start by knowing what we are talking about. It means that we need to have a proper mapping of the systems, of the assets that are installed within a vessel. It seems logical, but from experience, it's always complicated to get a document that describes perfectly the CBS assets of a vessel. So an inventory of hardware and software, which is now going to be mandatory and within the new UR, is something that should be constantly updated and being up to date in order to start building and then talking about cyber resilience.
Okay, thank you so much. So, sir, would you like to tackle the new set of questions that have been generated?
Yes, 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 yes. Regarding the invest, I would like to tackle the question regarding the invest that a company should do in cybersecurity and cyber risk management. Uh, it's something that we should not be talking about amount of investment, but we should be thinking about the amount of money, since we're talking about money, that could let's say be requested in case of an incident, of an attack. So I would say that no matter the cost of investing, the amount of investing in cybersecurity, it will always be lower than the invest or the amount that will be requested if a company is being hit. So by investing on cybersecurity, you ensure you are safe up to a certain level, because we can never be 100% safe, because we have to take under consideration the fact that there is a factor that is always an open door, and this is the human factor. The human factor always poses an open door in cyber threats. And this is where the most investment should be done in true awareness. This is the biggest threat in all the systems. The human factor is the biggest threat. People who are not aware but are operating systems are number one entry point, could be number one entry point in terms of attack. And this is why cyber risk management and cybersecurity is something that all ship owners should have as a must and should invest. Now, I don't know if Sanjeev wants to comment or add something on that.
Absolutely. So indeed, I mean, the estimation of cost and risk is an ongoing question, and how much we should invest and how much we should not invest. The moment we have an incident, then the actual cost comes out, and this is more of an insurance rather than anything else. So you need to keep it for the worst days. I do see a question here that how does the root cause analysis segregate the source of the incident? It is not genuine part of the network. So obviously, a network is built of two segments on an internal network, and then you have external communication going into the network, and how that is controlled. So what I meant by the telemetry is that obviously you collect telemetry of both inside communication and outside communication. So within your network segmentation, you will also have communication, and whenever there is a requirement for any external facing network, I mean, external facing network could be also remote hosts or remote logins that you may have to do. A manufacturer may need to do remote logging for remote troubleshooting if a vessel is not accessible. So these are the incidents when you will have people from outside getting into your network, or at least having an interface. And those telemetries would be important. Of course, if it is a whitelisted and genuine entrance, then you know it is being logged, and everybody is aware that somebody accessed the network for this time. Again, reading into year 26, you will see there is a very detailed guidance provided on external network interfaces, DMZs, and how remote access needs to be managed, logged, disconnected after a certain period of time. If you have to reestablish how somebody should physically authenticate that, so it's quite layered approach that I could see that has been given advisory given by IX. So it should be implemented in all those layers in order to have. And while implementing it, is interesting to see that it doesn't restrict, rather than enable how you could actually achieve that. And that is, I think, the crux of it, that digitization would be needed for sustainable shipping, and we need to use these guidance as enabler rather than restricting our networks and air gapping our networks.
If I may jump in the previous topic, there is a follow-up on this saying what kind of policies can we propose to aid the shipping companies and other maritime stakeholders. So we can go through a specific list of policies which provide also compliance with the ISM code. But I would like to highlight and emphasize that the training and awareness policy is one of the most significant. We can go through numerous of suggestions such as role and responsibilities or monitoring policies, maintenance policies, incident response policies. However, training and awareness should be number one in order to maintain a baseline, to be able to have a baseline of cyber resilience. There was another question, Sanjeev, regarding a control shutdown. If life protection is still available, so it depends on how we define the control shutdown and what is the impact of the shutdown. And also in the question we see if there is an attack, apparently it derives from an incident which has been real. We are talking about a container ship, if I get to understand here, if it could get to safety, or transmit source signals. So there are systems which are not connected, which are not interconnected. They are absolutely isolated, that are producing distress signals, signals that are sent to shore systems or entities which are responsible, such as the SAR from Galileo, which is a distress signal for safety. So, of course, signals can be sent. Safety then depends on the response time, plus on the awareness of the crew, people, on how to behave in case of these incidents. So we cannot say now that the impact is not going to be quite significant, but we can somehow minimize the risk by providing awareness to all the crew members.
True, and may I just add to it that of course this recovery method that has been advised also talks about the fallback to the most safest condition, right? So that is any method that is being triggered always gets the equipment to the most safest fallback condition, and obviously that safest here is used for both life and property and environment. So I think during the test phase, which I think Panos will be very busy till 2024 with very many equipment manufacturers, will actually lay out these things. I mean, we haven't seen that yet, right? So we are really imagining it. It's more like an imagination right now than actual practice. So the equipment will have to reach that level of sophistication where alarms will be triggered. They will go to a fallback safe condition, and still in a way that is safe for vessel operation and the life on it. So I think we would have to reach, and that's what the purpose of ER 26 and 27 is primarily.
Well, rollback situation is something which is thoroughly, I would say, being tested, or is something that should be examined on a factory acceptance test before we say that the system is going for installment in the vessel. So this step should be there. It is mandatory to be there in order to ensure that the system, in case of an attack, will go back, or in case of a malfunction, would go back into a safe state that will ensure at least a first level of assurance and safety towards the vessel, towards the human and the human factor, and also the entire, let's say, network and systems topology.
And Panos, may I ask how do you as class would be testing? Because testing meaning, will you be injecting at the test bed, of course, at the test bed stage of these important OT equipment? What methods would you be using to let's say pen test them?
You mean how do we certify systems?
Yeah, I mean, even if simulating a cyber incident, I mean, to be specific, what I'm asking is there is also a norm mentioned where you will simulate a cyber incident and then you expect a certain response from the system.
So we built specific test cases that reflect real scenarios, that derive from real scenarios, to ensure that specific security functions have been implemented in those systems and are indeed working as they have been designed to. So it is surveys that we are conducting as a classification society derive or come from these kind of test cases. It could be pen tests it could be hardening of the systems. This kind of tests or audits performed by us is something which is part of the final phase, let's say, before an approval of a system.
And what kind of certifications would the equipment supplier will be getting? I mean, if I'm an owner, what I will be really looking for that they are actually at the level of ER 26 or 27?
So for ship owners, class notations is what is being granted. So the vessel gets a specific class based on not based, which is actually reflecting the level of cybersecurity. We are talking about a cyber managed or a cyber secure vessel. Cyber managed vessel ensures that there is a level of cybersecurity that is limited to cyber awareness of all the crew members and is maintained throughout several inspections, frequent inspections of the vessel and of the crew members. And if we're talking about more advanced systems, more advanced vessels, we talk about the cyber secure class notation. In terms of equipment, we are talking about a type approval certification of the systems, that these are in line also with the two new unified requirements. All the class notation and the certifications that are being granted by Bureau Veritas are done and are conducted based on the rule note 659, which is in line with the two new requirements as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more questions that we would like to tackle? Anything?
There is one final question, quite long. Give me some time to go through it. Well, okay, well, this is a good point. I would say that within the maritime industry, we are falling a bit behind on awareness. Unfortunately, as I said before, we see that the ship owners do not invest that much on cybersecurity because it's not something mandatory at the moment. However, it will be mandatory. So everybody is trying to postpone this kind of investment. This is a mistake. The companies at the moment are not doing an effective training. However, it does not apply for all. There are a lot of companies who are mature enough and are willing to ensure that their vessels and their personnel are not at risk at any point. So we should not be talking whether most companies are doing effective training. We should be talking on how to perform an effective training. There are several solutions to this problem, and we as a classification society provide this kind of solution as well. So I would say that maintaining or keeping focus on the root cause is better than making assumptions or making questions that are not answered that easily. So the focus should be done on how to train the people in the most accurate and the most precise way, and in a way that the training should remain within the knowledge database of each person. It should be user-friendly, I would say, not advanced, and should be always updated. We see that threats are always updating, investments are done both ways, not only from the investor side, it's done also from the attacker side. So everyone, not just the maritime industry, everyone should be somehow updated up to a certain level, of course, to a certain level of understanding, I would say, in order to avoid going in a bad situation and falling in such a situation.
So true. Yeah. It's always the cost of training and preparing and creating
Exactly.
awareness will always come lower to whatever that you pay in case of a cyber attack or
Exactly.
any such situation. So true. So here I'd like to thank both of our panelists for such an engaging Q&A session. Now what I like to request our panelists is just take few moments and give consideration to the key takeaways from today's session that our attendees can take away. Meanwhile, I'll engage our audience with the last poll of today's session. This is in line with what we just discussed. Like we have heard of ransomware being the important cybersecurity threat. So how do we deal with them? 10 to 15 seconds for voting. Okay. All right. So to conclude today's session, first, I would like our first panelist, Mr. Panas, to take over. And then we'll have Mr. Sanjeev sharing his key takeaways and few pointers that the ship owners, ship managers, everybody involved in the maritime sectors should keep in mind. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Concluding, I would like to say that as my role as a panel member of IX, I could say that IX is here not to push for this kind of requirements, but is here to assist ship owners to establish a cyber resilience, a level of cyber resilience, and protect their assets. The requirements should not be seen as something that the ship owners are mandated to implement. They should see this as something that will evolve, will help their assets evolve and their business evolve. Now, in terms of classification society, we are here to assist and to help ship owners, system manufacturers, to build more secure vessels, vessels that have network segmentation, that they have a quite good distinction between OT and IT system, have state-of-the-art systems implemented and installed within, and also protect their assets. By protecting their assets, they ensure that there will not be, let's say, impacted financially. They will not impacted in terms of safety of the human factor, and also it will do good in terms of business evolution and investments, I would say. This can be done within consultancy sessions, within consultancy assistance from our experts, from our cyber experts, and also will ensure that nothing is at stake. Data are not in danger, vessels are not in danger, and people are not in danger. There are several solutions in the market that are able to provide this kind of, let's say, automations that the manufacturer, that the ship owners want to have, and will also ensure that they are efficient, cost efficient, I would say, and resilient, cyber resilient. If we want to be more precise, or if, as I said before, to go a bit more on some key details, I would say that a proper mapping of systems is the baseline, is the base for building something secure and understanding the assets you have. And second of all, crew awareness. So I would like to close with these 2 points because as per my expertise, it are the most important, and this is where the emphasis should be given from everyone, manufacturer side, ship owner side, everybody.
So true. Yeah. So
thank you, Mr. Panos and Richa. Yes, my key takeaways would be to really give a deep thought to what is written in here to year 26. I think it is a very nicely and balanced document showing us the way where we want to go. Presently, there is a lot of gap. While in our engagement with ship owners, equipment manufacturers, we do see crew training gaps. We do see how do we upgrade a system that was there for last 10 years. So there are definitely challenges. And then we have to come up with innovative solution of integrating or layering those solutions on top of to mask those threats that can be prevalent in these older systems. But going forward, I think the year 26 guidance could really help us harden our security framework and build up a business model which is resilient. So while we are making our ships resilient, our business model will also become very resilient. So as we were discussing the cost of implementing cybersecurity, I think we should rather spend time analyzing the risk of cybersecurity, what will happen if we do not do it. And I think then we will have our answer that this is the way to go. And I always mention that the connectivity landscape is changing. There will be more and more connectivity throughout our vessels, and we need to be ready and to be able to benefit from that in a safe and secure way. So thank you. Over to you, Richa.
thank you, sir. All right, with this, we come to the end of our today's sessions. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We appreciate you being here. If there is any service or help, you can drop us an email on info@varunamarine.eu or at marketing@varunamarine.eu as it is shown in the screens. If you wish to know more about our product and services or our service portfolio, you can visit our website, varunamarine.eu. Also, please keep following us on social media as we come up with such webinars, such contents, blogs, videos very often. So you will be in up to date with those content. So thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.